All right, friends, here we go. This is our review for exam one, which is tomorrow. Um, hope you guys can all hear me. I'm just going to go through these problems. This test should be fairly easy for most of you. You guys have already passed geometry, and most of you guys have already seen a lot of this stuff, especially in middle school. So, like I said, first exam, pretty simple, a lot of review. So, let's have at it. So, the first part, we're going to simplify. This is always the tricky one because this is negative 2 squared. It's not the quantity negative 2 squared. So this right here is actually negative 4. Okay? Plus, we're going to deal with this. This is 5 times negative 3 divided by 3. Order of operations, remember all of this falls under PEMDAS. So next up would be, let me switch up colors for you guys. Next up would be this multiplying. So I'm going to move it over here. Negative 4 plus negative 15 divided by 3. This part is next. I have to divide. Negative 4 plus a negative 5, which equals negative 9. All right. Doing this, we've got parentheses first. So that is going to be negative 2 squared. Let me just go ahead and rewrite all of this. We're going to hit the exponent. So that's negative 2 times negative 2. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys here. All right. So negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. So let's see where we're at here. All right. Next up would be that. Divide first. So that's going to give me 4 times 2 plus 4. That guy's next. 8 plus 4, which equals 12. All right, here we go. That guy's first. 6 plus 25 divided by 5 minus 10. Remember, that's not 5 times 2. The exponents, that's 5 times 5. This guy's next. I've got 6 plus 5 minus 10. And then add or subtract, whichever way. So I'll go here first. That gives me 11 minus 10, which equals 1. All right, so first part done. Next part, evaluate. That's where you're given certain numbers, you're going to plug them in. So A is equal to negative 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 5. You're going to take these values and you're going to plug them into these and then just solve them. So A is negative 1 squared plus C, which is 5, divided by 2. This guy's here. We got negative 1 times negative 1. I have 1 plus 5 divided by 2, which equals 6 over 2, which equals 3. Plug it in here. I have minus a negative 1 minus 5 all over 2 plus 5. This guy right here, the minus minus becomes a positive. So I have positive 1 minus 5, which gives me negative 4 over 7. And that's my answer. You leave it like that. Can't simplify it anymore. A little more complicated here. Negative 1 times 2 minus 5 squared minus 5. So order of operations, parentheses first. Negative 1 times negative 3 squared minus 5. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. I have negative 1 times a positive 9 minus 5. That's going to give me negative 9 minus 5, which is equal to negative 14. Okay, this guy right here. 2 minus a negative 1 all over 5 plus a negative 1. Remember that minus minus there? That becomes a plus. So I've got 2 plus 1 all over 4. That's 5 minus 1 gives me 3/4. Okay, so that's evaluating. For this, we're evaluating also, we're plugging in a value for the variable, but these are all going to be operations on fractions. And this stuff, all of this stuff is going to be on your test, but there is a section where it literally looks exactly like this. You're going to have to do each of the operations in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and you're given the same numbers to plug into all of them. So something like this is going to look exactly like it will on your test. Remember, when we're adding and subtracting fractions, you need a common denominator. Okay, so we have 2/5 plus 3/7. If you're not sure with the common denominator, you can always multiply them together. Sometimes that's the least, sometimes it's not, but it's always a way to get it. So we're going to have 35 and 35. Remember what I'm doing? I'm figuring out what I need to multiply this by. So I'm basically multiplying this guy by 7/7, which is going to give me 14. I'm multiplying this guy by 5/5, which gives me 15. And when I add them together, I get 29/35. Right? So for this one, once you get your common denominator, you leave it the same, just add the top. For this right here, I'm not going to do all this work again because I already did it for this. This is the same fractions. All I'm doing is changing the sign. So this is 14/35 minus 15/35. Again, your denominator stay the same. Gives me -1/35. Multiplication. 2/5 times 3/7. I think multiplication is the easiest. You just multiply straight across. So 6/35. And then division. I know this one gets a little bit confusing when it's like this. So what this actually says is this is x divided by y. So this is x, 2/5, divided by y. And remember, when you when you divide fractions, you flip that one and change that to multiplication. So we're going to have 2/5 times 7/3, which is going to give me 14/15. And those are those. If you're not sure how to add, subtract, multiply, divide fractions, make sure you see your teacher beforehand so they can go over it. All right, solving equations. So this is solving and determining the number of solutions. And when we determine the number of solutions, our choices are going to be one solution, no solutions, or infinite solutions. Okay, so let's do this. This is -x/3 equals -5. For this one, I'm going to multiply both sides by a -3, and I'm going to get x, because that guy cancels out, equals +15. Okay, when I get x equals just straight up a number, that gives me one solution. Okay, right here, I'm going to distribute that negative right there first. That's going to give me 4 minus x plus 3 equals -2x plus 1. I'm going to combine like terms here and here. Gives me -x plus 7 equals -2x plus 1. And then again, it doesn't matter which way you go. I'm going to go ahead and add x to that side. I'm going to move this up here. So I'm going to have 7 is equal to -x plus 1. I'm going to subtract 1. I'm going to have -x equals 6. And I can't have that -x there. That's like a -1. So I'm going to multiply both sides by a -1. And x is going to be equal to -6. Okay? You got x equals something. That's going to be one solution. Right here. Okay, this side right here, I have 3x minus 2 equals, I'm going to distribute that negative, which is going to give me +3x minus 2. Okay, if you see it right here, you're good to go. When you have the same thing on both sides of the equation, it's going to be infinite solutions. If you don't see it yet, we're going to subtract 3x to both sides, and I get -2 equals -2. That's true. We have infinitely many solutions. What that means is that any number that I plug in for x, 0, 1, 1 million, 1.5, it doesn't matter. It's always going to make that statement true. So this is infinite solutions. This guy right here, x minus 3 equals, I'm going to combine like terms, x plus 1. I'm going to subtract x to both sides, and I get -3 equals 1. Okay, well, we know -3 does not equal 1. So this guy right here is no solution. No solution. There is no value of x that I can find to make this true. There's nothing I can put in for x that will make this true. Solving here, I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides, and I have -x equals 0. Multiply both sides by a -1. This is not no solution. X is equal to 0. Remember, 0 is an appropriate answer. That is one solution. All right. Rational or irrational, you guys are going to have to do this. It's going to be like a box. You'll have to circle the ones that are either rational or irrational. I think there's a section where you come up with one on your own. So this guy right here, he is rational. He can be written as a fraction. This guy right here can be written as a fraction. He's already written as a fraction, so that is rational. Square root of 5, not a perfect square. He is irrational. Square root of 100. Okay, the square root of 100 is 10. It's a perfect square. Rational. -6. Rational. -36, 36, 36. Rational. Oops, sorry, I switched it up. Q, sorry. 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Irrational. -1/2. Rational. And 3 pi is going to be irrational. Remember, anything that's going to have pi with it or stuff like that, that's going to be an irrational. Pi is an irrational number. All right. You do have a problem like this on your exam where you have to approximate on a number line. So we could do the easy ones first. 6.5, obviously somewhere between 6 and 7. So this guy's right here, 6.5. So that guy's done. 1/4. Okay. Again, you're approximating. Okay, we know it's not going to be 1/2. It's less. So I'm going to put them right here. There's 1/4. Pi. We're approximating. So let's approximate at 3.14. Put that guy right about there. Pi. The square root of 4. That's 2. Put that right there. Rad 4. Rad 8. Uh-oh. What do I do with rad 8? Okay. Give me a second. I'll come back to that one. Let's do this one. 10 divided by 2. That guy's equal to 5. We'll put him right here. Okay, so let's approximate rad 8. All right, I've got rad 8 here. When I'm approximating, I want to know what the square root is on the right and the square root is on the left. The perfect square to the right, the perfect square to the left. So my closest perfect square to the right is going to be rad 9. My closest perfect square to the left is going to be 4. Okay, now I know what this guy is. This guy's 2, and this guy's 3. So I know rad 8 has to be somewhere between 2 and 3. Okay, that's where it's got to be. Now, I can also tell that it's going to be way closer to 3 than it is to 2. It's actually going to be more than half. Okay, so I know it's more than even 2.5. It's probably more than even 2.75. How do you know when to distribute and when not to? I'll get back to your question. I'll look at it. I'll look at one of the questions that you're looking at, and I'll see what you're talking about. Okay, so for here, I'm gonna estimate this at like 2.8, 2.9, and I'm gonna put them right about here. Again, you're approximating. So what I don't want to see is, let me put rad 8 down here. What I don't want to see is rad 8 closer to 2. Okay, you need to know that rad 8 is going to be even greater than 2.5 because you can see it when you pick your perfect squares on either side. Okay, let's do this one. 8.5, guys right here, right in the middle, 8.5. 1/2, leave him right there. -4 over -4, that gives me a +1. We'll put him right here, that's -4 over -4. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 36 is 6. And then 20 divided by 8, let's figure out where that is. Well, the easiest thing to do would be to put that into a decimal. So I'm going to divide that by 2. That gives me 4. Drop my 0, put a decimal. 8 goes into 40 5 times, so 2.5. Put that guy right there, and that is 20 divided by 8. Okay, some number sense. Okay, this right here, don't be fooled. These are not equal. This is -1 times -1, okay, which equals 1. This guy right here is -1 times 1, okay, which equals -1. So don't get fooled. These guys are on your test. It may not be with 1, it could be with 2, whatever, it doesn't matter. Mixed numbers, you want to convert them into improper fractions. So just a little practice. Remember, we multiply the denominator times the whole number and add it to the numerator. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So that's 8 over 5 divided by 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. And when we divide, remember, we flip this fraction. So we have 8 over 5 times 3 over 19. And you just multiply straight across. Okay, that's 24. Again, no need to do math in your head. Go back to the easy way of doing math. 24 over 95. Just looking to see if you guys can solve operations on that. Okay, to approximate, you need to figure out, obviously, again, the square root, the perfect square on the left, the perfect square on the right. So in this case, it's 25 and 36. So my number is between 5 and 6. 26 is super close to 25. So this guy is probably going to be like 5.1, 5.2, somewhere in there. Okay. Doing this one. 35. Same thing. Between the square root of 25 and the square root of 36. So somewhere between 5 and 6. It's closer to this one. So maybe 5.8, 5.9. Remember, it's negative. And then 80. Okay, closest one to 80, I've got square root of 81. And the square root of, which is 9, going to be 8, which is 64. 80 is super close to 81, so this one's going to be like 8.8, 8.9, somewhere in there. Okay, so how do you know when to distribute and when not to? I think you're probably talking about solving equations. So if we take a problem like this, I'll just do it like this, 2 plus 3x. Okay, let me move that down. When you're doing something like this, in a problem like that, you need to distribute. Anytime there's multiplication on the outside and you're not combining, you see how this is like a 2 and a 3x? When you wouldn't distribute is if it looked like this, -4 times 2 plus 5, okay? You wouldn't distribute that. You would just go make that 7, and that would be -28, okay? Now, it would work out either way if you distributed it, but order of operations, it's always better to do it this way. For something like this, you want to distribute because that's going to be -8 minus 12x. Okay, that's how we're gonna simplify that, is equal to 3x minus 2. And then I can move my x's over and solve. Does that answer your question as when to distribute? Distributing is going to be when it's right on the outside of the parentheses. Again, for this, you have 2 different terms. You have one with the variable, one without, so you need to distribute that to both. For this one here, I would always go order of operations inside. I can't do anything else here. I can't combine these. That's not 5x. That's just 2 plus 3x. So you can do it this way, combine, and then no need to distribute that without a variable. Does that answer your question on when to distribute? I think another one looked like number 12, which was this one. 4 minus x minus 3 equals negative 2x plus 1. Okay, so order of operations, I need to multiply. And this guy right here, Mr. Nakauchi, I like this. He calls these guys ghost ones because there's actually a 1 there with that negative. It's not just a negative by itself, it's a negative 1. So you're actually going to need to distribute that negative 1 before we get started here because you have to do multiplication first. So 4 minus x plus 3 equals negative 2x plus 1. That's how I distributed there. Another one that I had to distribute would be in a case like when you're simplifying, when I had this 5 times 1 minus 4, okay, you wouldn't distribute, you would just simplify inside and then multiply. It's better practice to do it that way. And then, I mean, even if you were to distribute it, you would get 5 minus 20, which would still give you negative 15. So it works. It's just a better practice to do what's inside because you just can combine those easier. All right, so that is that. Super quick, super easy. On your exam tomorrow, like I said, there's definitely a question like this on a number line. You're going to have a lot of these will not just be straight up solving. It's going to be, let me kind of show you guys. It'll be like a box with a lot of yes and no's. So you'll get something like simplifying, but it'll say, well, negative 2 squared plus 5 times 4. Does that equal 4 squared? Okay, and then it'll be like true or false. Does this side equal this side? Okay. Yeah, you're still just doing simplification. You're still simplifying. You're just doing that kind of stuff, but you kind of have to do it to both sides. So I know this side equals 16. Does this side equal 16? That's negative 4 plus 20. So I have positive 16 equals 16. Yes, it does. So this guy would be true. So it's kind of going to be in that format. Like I said, you guys will get used to the format because it'll be all the tests will kind of have a similar format. There'll be like some yeses and nos. Like this one, does negative 3 squared equal negative 3 squared? Okay, does that equal that? And that's no. That guy is negative 9. That guy is positive 9. So no, they are not equal. So it's going to be a lot of that. True, false, yes, no. There will be some where you just straight up give the answer. There is a section on if it's one solution, no solution, or infinite solutions. So we spend a decent amount of time going over the number of solutions something has. So there are questions on that where I'm not interested in the answer. Like you can go through all this and get x equals 15, but that's not where you're getting credit. The credit is, do you know if that's one solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions? So that's part of it. Solving equations is another part of it. Identifying rational and irrational, being able to come up with one of your own is also important. And the fractions, okay? You get 4 points just for being able to do the operations on fractions, evaluate, that kind of stuff. So tomorrow, if you need help before school, Mr. Finch is in room 107. And if you just take in one of your review sheets, he can help you before school. I think Mr. Chong also tutors before school, and he is in room 24. So these guys can help you out before school. They are usually there like at 7:30 if you need help. If you need help at lunch, your easiest place could be, let's see, tomorrow's Wednesday. So you can go to Kemple in 110. You can try Finch in 107. I will be tomorrow at a lunch meeting, but I will be in room 157. So if you are desperate, come see me at lunch and I can help you guys out. And if you have period 4, you can, stop by and come see me in my room. I'm either in 109 or 112 if you need me. We're going to review tomorrow before the test. This should not be that long of a test. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night and good luck.